Hello, folks. How are you doing? I hope you are doing great. So, today is an exciting topic. Like we always have been working with Visual Studio, right? Visual Studio. We always have been working with it. But today, I'm not going to be using my Visual Studio at all. Yes, because I'm going to show you that how we can create an application in C Sharp all from command prompt using certain .NET compilation tools. We will compile it. We will even ultimately host it. So by hosting, I don't mean a web hosting in that sense, but the way of web hosting will also remain quite the same. So let's start with the concept first. I got a bunch of commands with me, ready with me, so that I can easily help you to teach you. So let's start with a very fundamental that what you really need, what you basically need to start developing your .NET application. We will not require Visual Studio. Basically, Visual Studio is not needed. We will need at a minimum the SDK, the software development kit. Okay, so let me start this notepad a little bit, explain you the fact that we don't need any kind of Visual Studio or development unit. We'll just enough to have the SDK known as software development toolkit or just kit. Okay. However, your client, whom you are selling your software, will surely need a runtime. He will not need the SDK, he will need the runtime, the .NET Core runtime. By the way, the core branding is no more there. So when I say just .NET, that means .NET. That means .NET Core, quite, okay? We don't say .NET Core anymore. But, okay, we can use the word interchangeably just to make sure that we are not doing anything with the .NET framework. So let's start with the discussion that how can we, first of all, we can go to internet. We can simply download the .NET SDK. You can just type on Google that .NET SDK 9.0. Very soon 10.0 is going to come as of this recording. Just after a few days, you can expect that this is already November. After a few days, 10 is going to be launched. Keep an eye on that. And by the way, celebrations, folks. This is Silver Jubilee celebration for .NET. I am with .NET for the past 25 years, and .NET is celebrating its Silver Jubilee this year, honestly. Okay, many people don't know that. .NET started back in year 2000. At the time, we had got .NET Framework, but .NET Core has already been there for many years. Just started from the late 2016 and from 2017 .NET Core has started. Now we don't call it .NET Core, we just call it .NET, only .NET. Okay. So let me show you how can you use a simple SDK tools. I assume that you already have Visual Studio installed, and when you install Visual Studio, SDK runtime automatically gets installed in your system, right? So you don't have to go to internet and search for SDK because it's already there. If you have installed Visual Studio, Community, or any Visual Studio, the chances are that you have already installed SDK and the runtime. Make sure that you have really checked the .NET Core, the development things and all, so that you already have SDKs and runtime available. So let's start. What to do in the beginning? Okay, for now I'm going to be creating a folder right onto my desktop. Okay, so let me call it my project. Great. That's my project folder. I'll hit enter to move inside my project folders. Now inside here, I'm going to be creating a .NET project by fully using the SDK tools. So I can quickly launch the command prompt just by typing cmd, which automatically sets me into this project folder. Brilliant. And now to help us to create a new project, you can type a very simple command, which is .NET new console. That will create a new console project. So let me copy this and let me run this. .NET new. I should have copied. I don't know why I did not copy. Let me copy. And to paste in the console, you just need to right click. That paste automatically. Hit enter and .NET new project has been created. You can clearly see that a new project whose name is you know a new project has been created under my project. Okay, so you can clearly see that under my project we already have this program.cs file, which is, if you open up in notepad++, it just writes simple hello world. This is the way of writing this is called as top level statements in C# these days. We don't write public static void main and everything to start with. You can just write console.writeLine and it is going to work very nicely. Okay, now what we will do at this point is okay, yep. So what we do at this point is we are going to be compiling this program. So you can clearly see that the thing that we used here is .NET. So what is .NET? DOTNET. .NET is basically a tool. Now it itself is not the framework. I mean, just to clarify, this is a major doubt, misconception. The .NET is itself is not the framework. It's a tool which connects to many such. .NET internally, .NET tool can be used both in the development unit and also in the production unit also. I mean, in the runtime. So that means .NET is a tool that connects to other tools internally. So when you write .NET new console, it has already connected to some internal tool to let you create a console application. I hope that the things are sinking in. Okay, so .NET itself, you can think .NET as a kind of a broker. Okay, this dotnet.exe is a broker. Okay, it internally connects to other tools, which actually does the stuff. Now for you, I have already made this table of comparison. So when you write .NET new console, it actually invokes the SDK tools. And what exact SDK tool? It invokes template engine, Microsoft template engine.cli. This is the internal SDK tool used basically to create a console application, right? See, creates a new console project from template, example console, web, and app. So this particular tool, this template engine.cli, which this .NET.exe actually hits or executes to create your console application. It can even create many more. You can write .NET new web as well. Okay, web app. Okay, so that means whether you can create console app or web app, that depends on what command you sent after writing .NET new. Okay, so there are many. I'm not going to be discussing them all, but a few of course need a special consideration. Like you have got .NET Restore, .NET Build, they all use the SDK tool. Only accepting .NET directly when you write .NET and the application's name, that uses the runtime. This will require the runtime. A computer which has got the SDK will surely have the runtime. But a client, your client, whom you will be selling your software, he will just have the runtime and not the SDK. He even don't care. He is not a developer. So we are the developer. We need both the SDK and the runtime surely. So okay, so that means .NET. If I just write .NET, it actually hits the runtime host, right? So it actually hits the runtime host. Runtime host is a real .NET runtime. There are many things. You can really pause the video. You can really see, and I am just okay. Maybe I'll be including this document as a as a reference. I'll upload this document as well. You'll be finding a link below the video. Okay. All right. So now let me come down to the point. So we have already have our project. How to compile this? To compile this, we will be executing .NET build. I already have them sequentially. To build it, to build the project, you just need to run .NET build. So this is typical while still staying in the same project folder. My project is my project folder. Okay, that's my project folder. So I will be right clicking on this again to bring up. Oh, it did not copy. I don't know why it's not getting copied. Okay, .NET build. It's a compilation process. It will build my application, and this is going to be creating some build files. Builds are basically DLLs and EXEs. So it has built my project, and what is the outcome of it? Let's quickly look at the outcome. The outcome is when you go to the bin folder, now it has already built. how do I really confirm that? If you really come inside the bin folder, you'll find a debug folder. Okay, inside the debug folder, you'll find .NET 9 because currently the .NET 9 is in the market. It can be anything: .NET 8, .NET 9, .NET 10. That depends on what framework you're having. Double clicking on this, you'll be seeing some couple of files. Now these files need special attention for you to understand. Now for your computer, you might not see these exe and DLLs showing. For that, I'll tell you that you should be going to the view and the options and coming to the view option, and please turn off this hide extension for known file types. Usually it is checked, but I always like to uncheck it, okay, and then apply and okay. I already have it. So that is the reason I'm seeing my extensions showing. So now there are a couple of files. PDB is a special file used by Visual Studio for debugging purposes. You don't have to have special attention on it. You have a depths.json, which is a dependencies JSON. You also have this, this project runtime config.json. Now these are special JSON files. JSON files are settings files. They will tell my program, and my program is basically this DLL and exe combined. Okay, I'll tell you what's the difference between these two. I'll really tell you. I'll really talk about that. So for now, you understand that we have got this JSON and these two configuration file, which tells my program that what runtime version to use and what are my dependencies, if any, external dependencies, nugget dependencies. Okay, so these are the files which talks about the dependencies. So when you distribute your project to your client, you need to be distributing it all, right? So we are already done. I mean, if you pause the video right now and want to exit, you're already done. You can just copy and paste this to your client machine and it will run with all vigor and glory. You don't need anything else. You might just not include this PDB, but this is done. But one thing, this is the debug version of the project. Debug versions usually contain more size than release build. Debug build is good for developers who are building, and there are a lot of debug symbols inside. The DLL size and the exe size a little bit bigger. So that's one thing. But let me proceed to actually run this now. To run this, you just need to write .NET run. That's all you need to write. .NET run. Okay. So when you type .NET run, it runs. It starts executing. The first time you saw something coming up, it says that hello world. Let me run it again. It does some kind of restoration. It actually tries to see if everything is fine, and it runs the project. But again, .NET run is something that, as I've told you, this actually hits internally not the SDK tool. This .NET run actually internally will be hitting both the SDK tools, of course, and finally the runtime tool as well. Now to actually run the project, to actually run it without even invoking .NET, because you don't expect your client to write .NET run. Will you expect your client to write .NET run? No, of course. So what a client can do, when you have already given this to your client, let's say the client's folder is .NET 9. I mean, what I mean to say is that you can actually completely copy this. You can give it to your client. Let's think that I am creating a folder and I'm calling it client. This is a client's folder. I mean to say that maybe in your client's PC. The client has got this set of files. Now you want to run this. How can he? He can directly double click on it and it will run. My bad, I did not stop. My stop means I did not actually have a console.read key. For that reason, the screen is coming and going away. Console.read key. Okay, that will stop the screen momentarily. Now I need to be compiling it again. Need to recompile that by hitting .NET build. Okay, it has built. Fantastic. Now I'll be copying these things again, and let this be my distribution. This is my client folder. I'll replace them. It replace every one of them. Yeah, great. Now your client will typically double click on that exe and exe will run. That's how it has been, right, since ages. But you need to understand what really happens when you double click on it. When you double click on it, what really happens? Now, if a question is biting your mind that this is a small console application, so which one really contains your main? Is this the exe or the DLL? If you are from the older .NET background, that is .NET framework background, you know probably that for a simple console application, you will really get a DLL. You will not get a DLL. You will just get the exe, right? So is it that I can just distribute my, excuse me, is it that you can just distribute only your exe to someone and he can run it happily? Let me just copy. I have already copied and pasted into my desktop, anticipating a good start. Let me double click on it and it doesn't start. It doesn't start. So what really happened? Let me do one thing. Let me actually come inside my this client.exe. Let me just delete my DLL. Okay, I've deleted my DLL. Just right now I'm having my project.exe. If I double click on it, you'll see the same behavior. It doesn't run. But you probably know that we can also run an exe from the command prompt. So let's try to spawn a command prompt here and try to run my project, which is named as my project.exe. It doesn't even run. And you can clearly see that it requires the DLL. It requires the DLL. So I'll undo my delete and the DLL is back here again. And now I'm having this folder. Please understand, this is my development folder as a developer, whereas this folder is not the developer folder, is the client folder where client is trying to execute the program. Now when I hit enter, the my project.exe, it really runs, shows hello world. The question is that what this DLL is hiding and what this exe is also hiding. Now probably you have already understood, you already got a hunch of it, that just this DLL actually contains your program logic, not this exe. Maybe this exe is a kind of a connector to this DLL. This DLL is actually containing your program logic. This is true. Let me tell you very clearly, your program, there is zero, I repeat strongly, there is zero program logic, application logic within this exe. The whole application logic is within this DLL. Okay, this whole application logic is within this DLL, not within this exe. Then why this exe is there at all? Why is it there at all? Well, this exe is just working as a connector between .NET framework and this DLL. Yes, this exe is not a .NET exe at all. I repeat, this exe is not, it does not contain any intermediate language, nothing. It is simply an Windows exe. This is true, man. This is not, because I have gone through all the researches and all what I have found. I am trying to give my consolidated understanding to you. This exe is not, and this does not contain any IL, intermediate language. What it does is, it tries to search for the .NET framework provided by these configuration files, because if you open up the configuration file, you will see how this configuration file looks like. It says that what are the libraries that you'll be connecting, or any external library, and this guy contains what runtime you are working with. Okay, so knowing this runtime and knowing all of these, okay, so what you have is here. So you basically have currently just a file which this exe is going to talk to the .NET Core runtime, which is say, hey man, .NET Core, come on, come in, you have a file to execute for you. This guy contains the IL. So this exe will be dialing the .NET framework and will tell, if you can take over this file, kindly execute it. It's a kind of a broker. Did I talk about it a little bit earlier? Yes, I did. I also said .NET, dotnet, is also a broker. Exactly that. So basically what .NET does, so when you just do .NET build, or .NET Run, you know what it does? This guy will eventually connect to that DLL. Okay, this will not require the exe; it will connect to the DLL. And but you know, all the time we will not use .NET Run, right? All the time. So what we do is that we double click on the exe. This exe internally will do the same job as that of the .NET Run. Okay, this exe internally will do the same job as that of the .NET Run. So .NET Run internally calls the .NET framework. It's, you know, it basically .NET Run also checks if the application is all all sync, if it is all compiled or not. In fact, it also compiles. If we just hit .NET Run after creating the project by creating .NET New, it also does the job of .NET Build as well. Okay, it builds as well as run. So it got some additional job. But once the project is ready and your client wants to run it, your client can run in two ways. Let me show you how your client can run. Your client can either, let me come to the client screen. Your client can run by either invoking the .NET, and then he has to write the name of the DLL, not the exe. So you can write my project.dll. Yes, it runs. Do you see that? It runs. If he always wishes to run like that, then this exe is no more needed. I can delete this exe. I've deleted this exe. You can run it again. It runs. See how confidently I'm telling you, right? Because I've already done all kinds of researches before coming up with this class. I really badly wanted to talk about this to internet community. So .NET my project.dll will execute it, right? But not all the time you'll expect your client to work like that. You will, of course, want your client to execute via the exe. I'll undo the delete, right? You can double click on this exe, it will run. You can even directly type the name of the exe here, it will run, right? So this internally will invoke the .NET runtime is going to execute. By the way, one who don't know me, I am a complete one-to-one trainer. I've been doing this for the past 25 years. So I love .NET and I'm with the .NET from the very beginning. So if you want to have a one-to-one classes, please feel free to give me a tinkle. For some little charge, I really take one-to-one classes, either to start from all scratches, or if you have some doubt, I can also clarify your doubts as well. Okay, let me continue. So my project.exe, it ran, right? So hopefully you got an idea the differences between the .NET dotnet and the native .NET framework, okay, which actually runs it. .NET is just a tool which works like a broker to connect internally with the framework. Okay, let's proceed with this now. Now this is all good. Client is enjoying it. But there is one little but. Client will surely have to be having the .NET 9 installed in his computer, right? He has to be having the and you know the .NET is changing so quick. .NET code started from .NET Core 5, which is a universal version of .NET Core, and then came up to 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 currently. 10 is peeping around the corner. So .NET has changed so many times, and you can expect .NET 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So many .NETs will come, right? So the concept is that how can you really make sure that your client really is having .NET framework? What if the client don't have the .NET framework? What if, okay, then you can call your client to say that, hey Ramesh, can you please install the .NET framework? You can instruct him. Now he might ask that, okay, I am not that technical person, maybe that if you give me a program, if you I just want to run the program directly, double clicking on it and it should run. Why should I be concerned about what framework to download and what to do, right? Quite obvious. Client can of course say, right? Because clients aren't that technical as we are. So what to do? We have got some great news. So let me scroll down. First of all, to do that, okay. Now, okay. First of all, what you can do is, if you really want to publish your application for Windows 64 or bundle the .NET runtime itself and make it completely runnable even on a machine that does not have the .NET installed, you can run this command. Okay, you can run this command. Okay, all right, that's something else I was discussing. You don't have to keep your eye here. That's something totally different thing. It's an IL tool to, to look back into your IL code. I'm not talking about this for now. I'll be just making a new video on that. You don't have to worry. So I was thinking what I have done here, that's totally a different thing. Let's continue from this line number 22. So to publish any app for Windows 64-bit and bundle the .NET runtime itself, okay, I'll copy and paste it here. Okay, so this is what I'm doing. This is what is great. This is what is beautiful. You can distribute your program just by bundling .NET runtime and everything in a self-contained unit. So for that, this is the command .NET publish. These are the switches. Release means you want to go for the release build, and Win64 means Windows 64. What is self-contained? Self-contained means include the .NET runtime. Okay, include the .NET runtime. So let me copy this guy and now come to our project folder, which was this guy. Okay, our project folder, and let me let me execute that and see what we get. I'll hit enter now. Now this will take some time. This will take some seconds for sure. Okay, it took 9.7 seconds of time. Brilliant. And let's see what we got now. So hold your breath. I'm going to be getting into the same .NET 9 folder. You remember this is our project folder. We got this my project folder. Now coming inside this bin folder, you now have this release folder too. Release folder is a folder having, this is what we develop when we are about to publish our project to the client. Okay, that's the release folder. It usually has got lesser, all the DLLs and exe size are lesser, but we also wanted to be self-contained. If I have not written self-contained, it would have just be very small. First of all, let me do one thing. Let me not have this self-contained. Okay, let me just write only this and show you that what is the outcome. Let me delete this folder. Okay, because I just don't want to open this, otherwise you'll be shocked to see the content of this. Let me again compile this. Okay, compile this. All right, that's the release folder, the .NET 9 64-bit, and it looks pretty much the same, right? If you go to the publish folder, it looks, so this is the actual publish folder. This is what is the published stuff. Okay, so when you go to the you actually don't have to see this. This is the non-published. The actual thing is within the published folder. That is also reported here. You can see that this is where bin 64 publish folder, right? So this is the folder where you have got it. Not much, quite the same. You can compare the sizes. They'll be very much the same because the program itself is very small. So this is the release build, same as we did the debug build. So what we did previously is the debug. We had a debug here. Now that we have a release here, right? So let me copy the commands we have so far done so that you understand the points. Okay, so far, what we have done is just build. When you just write the .NET build, it builds a project. But if you want to build the project for the release mode, you need to be giving the command explicitly like .NET publish and release. Okay, that will make sure that it has actually compiled it for the release mode. It's all the same. Now you can of course copy and paste. You can distribute to your client. The client is going to work. I can copy, I can distribute it to my client. Let this be my client, and I can say, hey Mr. Client, enjoy. Oh gosh, what I've done, I've done the wrong thing. Undo, copy. Okay, I paste it directly there. Okay, I need to be pasting it here. Replace everything, and the client will be happily executing it by double clicking it. He is running the release build. But For this, he must have .NET runtime, which is demanded by this project and which has been mentioned into these configuration files. I hope you're getting the point, right? So client must have the .NET runtime, right, previously installed on his system. What if it doesn't have? He has a fresh machine, fresh computer, having fresh Windows 10 or 11, and he wants to run .NET. What is the workaround? For that, workaround is just publish it using self-contained true. Now I'm going to be copying this command and pasting this in my command prompt. Here we go. I hit enter. It says that go for release build and self-contained is true. What is that? Self-contained means include the .NET runtime too. That's a brilliant move. Now let me go to the publish folder and you can see a whole lot of files. What are these files? You still see those files, right? These are my application files. These are your application files. Apart from them, you see a host of files. So all of these files are the part of the .NET runtime, right? So that means the whole .NET runtime has been given to you, and now it's of course bit more heavier. It is 74 megabytes of size, but you can really distribute it to anyone. Let me copy this publish folder as a whole, and you can paste it anywhere. You can name this new client, okay? I mean, this is client 2, you can say client 2, okay? Client 2, great. This client will not require to install anything. You just need to tell him that go buddy and please run your program. Of course, client will have a hard time to locate your application exe now. So it is my console application. What's the name of my project, by the way? It is my project, yeah. So my let me see, where's that my yep, my project.exe. What you can do is that you can simply throw a desktop shortcut. That's what I have been doing with my clients, like create a desktop shortcut so that client don't have to find a needle in the haystack. So you can just double click on it and the project will start. Great, right? This is sometimes known as X-copy deployment. That is, you copy and paste to the client's machine all the files and he's ready to go. Now, which is all good, which is definitely good, there's no doubt in it. You're learning, fine. But what if you want this to be minified? Minified means, I mean, of course, you don't want all these files and everything that looks little crazy, all these files and so many things to be displayed. You just want to minify it. All the DLLs and exe should be under one single file. For that, you have a great command, and the command is everything is same. See, self-contained true, everything is same, but you can say publish single file. So I just want to be including this. So everything is fine, but now you want it to be an additional switch. You can just have a look. I'm comparing the commands. You can just see everything is fine. Just have added an extra switch, which is publish single file. That will create a single file containing both of your projects logic and also the .NET framework logic. Let's give it a go. So let's now, first of all, what I'll do is that I'll be deleting the thing that we already have in here. Okay, so we already have this whole bunches of thing. I'm going to be deleting the whole release build. Okay, just will delete it. Fine, again, so that you can see it afresh. And let me, why didn't it copy, man? Copy. Great, run it. And this is going to take some time. Meanwhile, oh, I thought I can take a sip of my coffee, but it took fast. Great. So build succeeded 4.6 seconds. It worked fast, quite fast. Let's bump into this release build and see what's inside for us. So many files, or you still have many files. Now don't see these files. These are something which actually will be done before it does the publication. It actually dumps it here and then it does the publication. Here you will see only one exe, man. Look at this. You should truly appreciate here. So that means you give this only exe. By the way, you don't need to give your client this pdb. It's not really required. Okay, so you can just give this exe to anybody, anyone. I can even keep this exe right here in my desktop, and this is my exe. Double click on it to run. It runs. Wonderful, isn't it? Look at this. It runs. So that means this contains your application logic, your .NET runtime, everything compacted in one file. For that, surely you can expect the size to be quite large. This is true, the size is quite large. One exe, 67.6 megabytes of size, okay? And this even has compacted your, what you say, your JSON files and everything. This is super compaction, just one, okay? You can think this as a neutron star, very dense, contains only all the things dense, like very highly dense thing, okay? Very high density, right? Black, you can call it a black hole. Think about it if you love space and all. I love it, of course. So all the files and everything compacted, compaction, even your logic, your JSON file, you name it, everything compacted into one. But human quest doesn't stop here. Now that if you copy this and paste it and give it to anyone, this is surely going to run. I mean, just copy and paste, anybody is going to run. You are quite done at this point. You don't need anything else. But know one thing. This is ultimately a .NET program. A .NET program is not a native program. You know that? Probably you already know that. .NET program is not a native program. .NET programs, if you don't know, let me quickly give you an example of what it is. That usually a normal computer program, which is a normal exe program that run directly on the operating system, okay? But a .NET program, if you have a .NET exe, it doesn't directly run on this machine. What it runs on a framework. It requires a framework, okay? It will really require a framework. So it runs on the top of this framework, and this framework is known as .NET framework, okay? So .NET programs, if a .NET program is there, it directly don't interact with the machine. This is the operating system, right? It doesn't interact directly with the operating system and the hardware. What it does, it interacts with, this guy interacts with the .NET runtime, which then converts the program's code, the IL intermediate language, into ones and zeros. It's a very basic thing. Probably you definitely know it. If you don't know, you can go and check my other videos. Probably I have definitely mentioned this. Yeah, one of my video I have really expanded this to large expanse. Okay, so yep. So .NET programs don't run. So it's a bit slower, not that slow as Java programs, because Java programs are first compiled and second interpreted. But .NET programs are first compiled and second also compiled. But even though the instructions are compiled in runtime by JIT, just-in-time compilation, so it's kind of a bit slow. What if you want to break all the barrier? If you want to say that, man, I just want you to behave like a native computer program, is it possible to make this program as a native program? Note one thing, my friend, that if you take this to any computer, maybe a Linux computer, it's going to work. But let's say if you know that your program is working probably on just Windows machine or one of the specific client machine who needs a huge performance, okay, huge speed, then what you can do is that you can convert this program something into a hardcore machine language code, okay? That is, you can convert this into an exe version. Of course, that's an exe known as portable exe, which is framework dependent exe. But this can be converted AOT means ahead of time. And this is known as ahead of time compilation for a specific kind of machine. Now this won't remain portable anymore, but this will give you super speed. You can do that for Windows, you can do that for Linux. So that means you can distribute 11exe for different kinds of machine. For that, you need certain additional setup. The command is super simple. For doing that, you need a very simple command. This is what you need to write. Now, for now, if I really run this, if I really run it, it will work on my PC. Let me run it, hitting enter. See this, there's a command known as publish AOT true. So it is still giving out one file, and published AOT means ahead of time. Okay, taking some time now. Took 10 seconds in my PC. So it now has converted my program into complete native exe. Look at this. And the size is 1.22 MB. Enjoy this, because this doesn't contain the .NET framework. This is totally boiled down, chewed down, stuff which can directly run in a blazing fast speed. Go and hit enter, immediately it starts. It doesn't even have a lag. Look at this. It starts immediately, right? The reason is that this is now a native program. You can now distribute it to anybody, but having the same kind of hardware that you have developed it for. If you look at this command, what I have done is that go for a release build, providing you have a Windows 64-bit machine, right? So that means it's going to run with all vigor and glory or any machine which is Win 64, right? You go check out for others like maybe Linux or others. It definitely has command. I did not check for Linux or any other machine, but it surely has. You can definitely do ahead of time compilation, AOT compilation. That is, you have zipped down your .NET program into total machine level language code, which is only 1257 kilobytes, as against my program which contains the framework and everything, which is hoping 67.66 megabytes of size. That tells a lot, right? If you double click on it, maybe I have run it will run a little quick. It is running quick, of course. These days native programs and .NET programs don't have much difference, but sometimes when you're running a large loop having billions of calculation, it will do some difference. I mean, what I'm just talking about. Of course, natives are surely natives, right? They have little bit, far better, it has got good like performance as against any non-native application, right? Great, but in your computer this won't run. Okay, this command will not work. When you give this command, you'll be getting an error. What error? You'll be getting an error. I'll tell you the error. You'll be getting an error, a bad error. I'm just telling you. The error is why did I write it? Second. Yeah. No, just a second. I have already jotted down that error for you. Where did I write it? You'll be getting an error, which will say that C++ build tool not there. Okay, some kind of error. So yes, that is the error. That is the error. Okay, this error you will get. Let me copy and paste this error. So when you run this, AOT stuff, this error you'll get. Let me also copy and paste my AOT command. Okay. So when you do this, you'll be getting this error. Never mind. It's asking for C++ tools to be installed. For that, you need to be going to Visual Studio workload, and you need to be installing MSVC version 142 build tools or higher, Windows 10 and 12 SDK for sure, and the desktop development with C++ workload. How to do that? There are some steps you can really see. So you have to open the Visual Studio installer. Visual Studio installer is this guy. You already have it. Visual Studio. Just have a class now. I'm running low in time. Visual Studio installer. Yeah, if you in the Visual Studio installer, you have to come to this Visual Studio installer, and then you have to click modify. Right, I've got this application, click modify, and after doing that, okay, modify on your installed Visual Studio version under workload. So there is a workload. Okay, this workload, check the desktop development with C++. So make sure that you really check the desktop development. Usually people don't select it. Okay, so you have to be checking this, and also make sure these optional components are included, MSCV. So when you check this, it actually comes here. So okay, so when you see this desktop development, MSVC, this is what you need to check. Okay, MSVC 143, and also you need to make sure that Windows 10 and 10 or 11, if you mostly people use 11, I know it. See, Windows 11 also need to be checked in, right? So you need to be checking in these two. So once you do that, probably you need to be restarting Visual Studio. And I'm sorry, just I don't think you need to be just restarting anything. I'm sorry, you just can restart your command prompt. I mean to say that you can install restart your command prompt, because any changes you do usually only takes in effect when you restart the command prompt, and after that you can really run this command that does a wonderful thing for you. It's a super great thing that now you can distribute your .NET program just as a native program having just a few kilobytes of size, as if you have developed it in native C++, right? Whatever I have talked about today, about this process, pretty much same for the web publication. It is 90% same. In web, certain more commands are needed for the publication, which is what I would like to discuss in some other class. Please let me know, drop a comment, let me know how you have understood it so far. I hope you do all the best in whatever you're doing. And once again, I'm a very passionate teacher. I've been doing it for more than 20 years. I have been with .NET since 25 years. I've developed many small, big application projects as well. I've learned so much while teaching as well. And I'm also a Microsoft certified professional. So if you need any help on .NET, if you want to have one-to-one classes with .NET, please ping me. My phone numbers and all details. My website is supernovaservices.com, which is all details will be given in the description below. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye and stay healthy.